Greetings! What's shaking Booktube? My name's Cam and welcome back to another video. I was gonna film a book review wrap-up video today, but I'm still working on one of the reviews. Yeah, that's right. I plan out my reviews. Fuck me, right? My review for Black Leopard Red Wolf is pretty tricky, so I'm just working out that before I try and put it into a video. So in the meantime, I'm holding a little mini awards thingy thing for the top 10 characters that make me... They give me a bruh moment. They make me go, oh, bruh. Bruh. I'm going to be talking about some book characters, and let me be clear, these characters, they are not mood. They're definitely not bae. They're not bae. And you know what? I would go so far as to say, they're not even fan. Yeah, I said it. Before I tell you who the characters are, I want to make it pretty clear. It is an important point. These aren't characters that have necessarily been written badly. They are just characters that got under my skin and really pissed me off. And in a lot of cases, that was the intention of the writer, obviously. So you don't need to go into the comments and be like, them being annoying was the point, Cameron. You don't need to tell me that because I know that, okay? I know. Just stop. And rather than just telling you the book characters that I hate, I actually want to try and dissect the specific reasons why they grate me, because we've read about a lot of villains or a lot of annoying characters, but not all of them really get under your skin like these characters do, so I want to try and figure out exactly why. Number one book character that pisses me off, and this is a super obvious one, it's like on every list of book characters people hate, so I'm just going to get it out of the way. It's Dolores Umbridge. Dolores Umbridge is, in my opinion, one of the greatest characters there are because of how effective she is at pissing you off. In a book series filled with so many villains and just shit people, to be honest, Dolores is an absolute standout in the field of characters that just get under your skin. They really grate you. And the thing is, she's not even, like, necessarily evil. Like, she's not walking around the halls of Hogwarts killing every muggle born, you know? She's just incredibly sadistic, but I had a real think about it, and I've realized that it's more than just her actions, it's more than what she does that pisses people off, and it's something we don't really think about a lot when we think about Dolores Umbridge. She pisses us off because she thinks so highly of herself above characters that we've read about for like 5 books already, that we already think highly of. She thinks she's better than them without really showing any evidence of that. Add to that some of the small intricacies, like some really kind of brilliantly placed intricacies, like her infatuation with, kitten plates and everything being pink. It's just all this stuff that would really irritate you in real life if you met someone like that. I think the reason Dolores Umbridge is so annoying is because she's not just a bunch of stuff that has been thrown together to be irritating, it's a bunch of little irritating things that have been thrown together to create a person. I mean, she's definitely evil, obviously. I can't remember if the voice was a part of her character in the story, but I'm pretty sure it was too. Bruh. The next character, well, it's actually 2 characters. It's a 2-in-1 deal for this one, so suck it. These are 2 characters from a book that I actually read pretty recently, The Art of Racing in the Rain. It was the book told through the lens of a dog, dwelling on some of the philosophies of life and showing you a journey of the dog's family through, grief and heartache, all that kind of stuff. If you want to hear me talk more about that, I'll leave a card for the book review I did on The Art of Racing in the Rain. But in that story, it's not really a spoiler because it's kind of the premise of the whole story. But in that story, the main character's name is Enzo. Enzo's master's name is Denny. And Denny's wife dies from cancer pretty early on in the story. And there are these 2 characters which happen to be the wife's parents that are just, I guess, the main antagonists of the story. And Enzo refers to them as the twins because they dress almost exactly the same and they happen to look very similar. But here's the thing, I can't really tell you exactly why these characters suck so much, and trust me, they suck, without kind of providing some spoilers. So I'm going to give a spoiler warning here. If you want to skip the spoilers, you can go to this time card. But with that said, spoilers in 3, 2, 1. It's a hard thing to not feel sympathy for parents that lost their daughter, and you can tell they really cared about their daughter, but they manage to make you fucking hate them anyway because straight off the cuff of this, they pretty much blame Denny for not, seeking medical care sooner and all this kind of stuff. They're in a bit of a state of denial where they want to put blame on someone and they put it on Denny. And that would kind of be fine on its own. Although we as the readers know that Dany is not in the wrong in any way, shape or form, we could kind of get past that. They're grieving, sure. But what pisses me off the most about the twins is that Dany is also grieving. He's now a widower, he's lost his wife, and straight after this, he ends up in a custody battle for his daughter with the twins, with the grandparents, because the grandparents feel that he isn't fit to be a father. And through most of the story, it seems like the twins are winning, and it sucks so much seeing that Dany is not only grieving the immediate death of his wife, but now he's also trying to fight to keep his daughter in his life. The twins just seem to lack complete empathy for this guy, and it's really heartbreaking. And the worst part is just when you think they've reached the peak of callousness and just when you think Dany might actually win and get his daughter back, they hit him with what is essentially a fake allegation against this girl. It's a whole B-plot earlier on in the story while the wife's still alive. To quickly summarize that, there's like a 15-year-old girl who has a crush on Dany and she tries to make a move on him. Obviously, he rejects her. And later on, the twins basically convince the girl to come forward and say that Dany took advantage of her so that Dany doesn't have a shot at having his daughter in his life. And it's so horrible. Bruh. The next character is from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and it's Veruca Salt's parents. I know it's really easy to hate Veruca Salt because she's an entitled little shit. But when you've read the book and you even watch the movie, can you really blame her? I mean, she's been provided everything she's ever desired through her entire life. I'm not trying to make some big statement about how I feel about entitled kids out here in the real world, but I think parents that let their kids grow up without no being in the vocabulary deserve to have a child like this, and unfortunately the rest of the world doesn't really deserve a child like that existing, but if there's anyone to blame, it's the parents. In the movies, it's only the dad that goes to the chocolate factory with Veruca, rather than both the parents, and we see the dad as being kind of a tired and almost sympathetic character. We're like, oh man, that guy has to deal with that little bitch all day. Damn, sorry dude. In the books, it's both of the parents that go with her and they seem a lot more enthusiastic to give her everything she wants, but even in both situations, I didn't feel sorry for him or them at all. Like, discipline the fucking child. Tell her no. Like, you see him keep saying like, yes honey, yes honey, yes honey, and everyone else there at the chocolate factory is just like, stop. Bruh. Next up is a character from one of my favorite book series of all time, and that's Wayward Pines by Blake Crouch. And the character is Adam Hassler. Again, I can't really discuss this without giving some spoilers for the Wayward Pines series and one particularly pretty big twist, so if you want to skip this, here's the time card. Here we go, spoilers in 1, 2, 3. So to put it simply, Adam Hassler he's a dick, okay? He straight up tried to cuck his friend. Adam Hassler is the boss of our main character, Ethan Burke. They both work in the special services, kind of like the FBI, but the special services. That's where they both work. And the whole story is based around Ethan being sent by Adam Hassler, by his boss, to this town to investigate the disappearance of another agent, and that's where it leads into the whole story and a whole shit fight. That's all I'll say without giving too many spoilers on that particular thing, but we find out later on in the story that his boss, Adam Hassler, only sent him to that town so that he could try and bed his wife. Adam Hassler is in love with Ethan Burke's wife, and naturally, when you're in love with someone, the first thing you do is make them think that their husband has just died and then try to shag him. I'm so sorry for your loss. Wanna f***. It's very similar to like the Shane and Rick little story arc in The Walking Dead. Well, the situation would probably be identical if Shane had been the one to put Rick in a coma. That's the closest comparison I can give you. Just a dick move, man. Stand by your friends. You know what I always say? Mateys before ladies. I think the main reason this character irritated me so much was through the entire story he felt like he was doing her a favor, that she was better off with him, she would have a better life with him. In reality, he was depriving her of the man that she was truly in love with, and it was just a holier than thou attitude he had. It sucked. The next character is Lee Torno. Torno. Pretty sure it's Torno. Lee Torno from Horns. Once again, I'm sorry, but there's going to be spoilers in this one. So if you are planning on reading it, I would probably recommend skipping this one. Time card right there. 3, 2, 1. So Lee, old boy, he's another cuck boy. Another dude trying to cuck our main man, our protagonist. Guys, mateys before ladies. How many times do I have to say it? Now, if you've seen the movie Horns, you're pretty familiar with Lee Tourneau, and you're familiar with how much of a dick he is. He's the kind of guy who literally laughs while he's telling our hero that he raped and murdered our hero's mutual friend, and, well, our hero's, girlfriend. But here's the thing. Book Lee is so much worse than movie Lee. He's an infinitely better character in the book in terms of how he's written and how interesting he is. But in terms of how much of a dick he is, he's a lot worse. The story of Horns is the protagonist Ig trying to unravel the mystery of how his girlfriend died, and everyone in town is blaming him for his girlfriend dying, and all the while, horns are growing out of his head and people are acting strangely around him. And by the end of the story, we find out that Ig's best friend, Lee, had actually killed and murdered her because he had been in love with her, and he just couldn't hack that she didn't feel the same way back. In the book, I feel like we're meant to feel more sorry for him because he has a bit more of a complex history. Specifically, there was an incident in his past, in his childhood, where he fell over, and I think he hit his head on a rock or something like that. And anyway, he ended up with some form of brain damage, and from that point on, that's when he started acting really viciously. And he would do your typical terrible person things like animal torture, and, well, I guess, and arson, and ultimately murder. I guess you could attribute it to the brain damage, but I still don't feel that we're meant to be sympathetic for this character that does such horrible things throughout the story. But what is most frustrating about Lee Tourneau, the one thing that pisses you off the most about him, that through the entire story we're led to believe that Ig can trust absolutely no one except for Lee. Lee is almost the oasis in the desert in terms of people trying to throw shit on Ig and blame him for this death, and no one believed him except for Lee. And then in the end we find out it's all because of Lee. It was a bit of a kick in the balls. Bruh. The next one is a character from Matilda, and you're probably thinking I would say Miss Trunchbull, but she didn't get on my nerves nearly as much as Mr. Wormwood. It's not really a mystery why people would be pissed off or hate Mr. Wormwood, and it comes down to pretty much entirely that he was an extremely abusive and neglectful father. Now, we're talking about Matilda, which is a children's book, so obviously he wasn't physically abusive, but what he did was a lot of emotional abuse, which a lot of people would say is just as bad. But even further to that, I think the reason I hated Mr. Wormwood so much is because, yes, he was emotionally abusive, but even more than that, he would go out of his way. He would actively try to stop Matilda from seeking some kind of escapism or enrichment. He would tear up her books, that kind of thing. He didn't really want her to have any escape from the shit he was putting her through. Anyway, I don't want to get into a whole conversation about, I don't even want to say it in the video because my video will be wiped from every suggestion feed on the planet. I don't want to have a conversation about that. I'm just saying it's pretty damn clear why Mr. Wormwood, and really the rest of the Wormwoods, they all suck, but Mr. Wormwood is obviously the patriarch of the household. He's the worst. Next up is Ryzek from Carve the Mark, and put simply, he is a punk-ass bitch. Ryzek is very comparable to Joffrey from Game of Thrones. He's someone who seeks power, but he uses other people to do it while trying to avoid confrontation because he's a bitch. He doesn't like getting in the confrontation with anyone who could be a threat to him. Worst of all, though, when he was a kid in the stage of his life where we could most empathize with him, he was still doing shitty things like transferring his ability was to transfer memories, and what he would do is, after suffering some torture from his father, not like literal physical torture, but just, again, abuse and neglect, he would transfer those memories into his infant sister, basically giving her the trauma and all the shit part of it. Scumbag. I'm going to cheat a bit with the next one because I haven't read the Game of Thrones series. That's a beast I have not conquered. But I am going to mention a character, and my opinion of her is it's just based off the TV show, so I don't know if she's different in the books. And God, there's a lot of characters I could point out from Game of Thrones that piss us off, like Joffrey or Ramsay Bolton, etc. But I'm going to say Cersei. I really, really despise her. I like villains who have a compelling and emotional backstory, okay? And she has that. I get that. That's cool. What I hate about her, though, is her attitude every time something happens, like her kid's dying or something like that. She has this very aggressive and outward kind of anger, and that's natural when one of your kids dies, sure, but for what is meant to be a pretty smart character, she somehow is incredibly naive, always fails to see how her kids dying are a direct result of stuff that she's doing. She never sees herself as at fault. Plus, she just has one of those really fucking irritating attitudes, how it's like, every time someone tells her she's being shitty, she's like, I can't believe you would say that. After everything I'm going through right now, and you would say that to me. I just don't like how she never seems to see how she's at fault in any situation. Plus, she's also currently the major obstacle in Jaime's redemption arc. I like redemption arcs. I like them a lot, and I really want to see Jaime become a good character, and she's the one person fucking stopping that from happening. Cersei, get out of the fucking way. Let Jaime do him, okay? Let him be a hero for once. Now, the last character, the one that... this last character, he's a seriously, f*** this guy. Mr. Goddamn Poe from A Series of Unfortunate Events. What a useless mother... Mr. Poe isn't an evil character or even a bad guy in the Series of Unfortunate Events, but I honestly believe he should be held responsible for literally everything that has happened to those siblings, to the Baudelaire kids. His constant condescending attitude towards these kids who we watch go through so much hard shit, do stuff that hardly any adults would even be capable of, and then by the end of the story, Mr. Poe's there to talk down at them, act like they're just a bunch of stupid little kids, continues to put them in danger, doesn't believe them when they point out that they are in danger, despite the fact that it's been proven every other time that they've said they're in danger, they were in fact in danger, also seems to lack any sense of actual empathy while being in that position of power over the kids to put them in a safe home. He takes credit for the Baudelaire kids' accomplishments and denies credit when there's a fuck up. So incredibly naive, and again, I feel it's his fault for almost everything that happens, even more so than Count Olaf. Count Olaf would have been locked up and put away by like book 1 if Mr. Poe hadn't been a total dickhead. So Mr. Poe gets 10 out of 10 bruhs. Bruh. This character gets the deadass dumbass award. He's a deadass dumbass. Fucking dumbass. Fuck you. I'm sure you can tell I have a lot of feelings about Mr. Poe. Anyway, that's it. That's 10 characters that I despise. I'll reiterate that it's not because they were written badly. It's not because I think they shouldn't have been in the stories. If anything, it's because they were written exactly the way they were meant to be, to get under your skin. I'm sure the stress that these characters have put me through have taken a couple of years off my life, but you know what? That's okay. I'll live with it. Or I won't live with it. Pun intended. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Catcha.